What's going on, guys? Welcome to the podcast. My name is Derek. I have got two special guests in the house today. My cousin is to your right, JB. James Brown is in the building. And to my left is this Negro we've known for 30 years, B. Jordan. Brandon Jordan in the building. What's going on, fellas?
Hey, how you doing? Just recovering from last night. It was a wild night.
Good times. Good times. A lot of action. In fact, total nonstop action. So,
All right, no diddy. When we say total nonstop action, we're actually talking about TNA Wrestling. So we went to the show last night in Tempe. Really good time. And what made me not so optimistic when we came into the show last night is we watched Impact, the night before. And on the TNA Impact show, we saw tons of missed spots, some really, really old man, lack thereof moving around, especially out of Matt Hardy, but pleasantly surprised last night when we went to the show and just such, just better product, just better execution. It looked really, really good last night. What y'all think?
Yeah, we had a really great time. There was some really, really good spots. I didn't see a whole lot of missed spots. They actually added some extra matches to the card, and the extra matches that they added weren't just like filler matches. I think every match kind of held up to, a pretty good standard.
absolutely, I agree. What we saw in comparison to maybe something that we may have seen on the internet, the live show is a lot better. In the number of different matches that we did get to see, the way it went from multiple tag matches, singles matches, titles being up for the line, no title changes, I believe. I may be mistaken, but there were so many different amazing matches that happened last night that I just truly wasn't expecting. For a pay-per-view or a PLE, they absolutely nailed it. I'm looking forward to tonight, actually.
So let's go down the match card and we can kind of recap what we saw. It starts with the pre-show, and I didn't even know that they were going to have a pre-show match. I think when we were going into it last night, I think there was a total of 6 matches before we actually got to the venue, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they had like 4 more matches on. So this is one of the ones that got added on. I'm looking over at the card right now. We had Brookside, Mila Grace, and Harley Hudson went against the Elegance brand. And we had seen the Elegance brand wrestle the night before. And man, the match on Impact actually was pretty good. And then the match last night did not disappoint. I actually thought that this was a solid opening match. What do you guys think?
They definitely got the crowd going, got everybody involved. Hopefully they'll have more of an opportunity to do a title run, because I think people were really excited to see him. So
I think it was a good starter match to get everything going. They played well into the crowd. There was a lot of crowd interaction with the Hills, and it was a classic. It was Hills versus Face match, and there was a lot of distractions and trying to get the upper hand by ways of cheating from the Hills, and the match played out the way you would expect it to, and it was a good way to start the night off for sure.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but whoever their manager is, Michael Cole's gay cousins, he really did a really good job of interacting with the crowd and getting everybody. He really got the heat last night. It was actually really funny to see. The next one, which is actually, I don't think this was actually the second match of the night, to be completely and totally honest. But we're just kind of going off of what the site is saying. We had Jason Hutch versus Mustafa Ali, and already, I'll tell you, that was match of the night for me. Ali, you still got it. I mean, my God, that man can move. But hey, let's give Jason Hutch his flowers as well. That man, you could tell there was chemistry between those two.
Yeah, that was for sure the match of the night for me. I don't understand why WWE let Mustafa go. He can definitely work for sure. It's nice that TNA is letting him do some mic work as well now, because he's actually pretty good on the mic. It's not great, but he's improving. He's not bad on the mic, and he definitely could make a big push. That the performance was really well, and the same thing as Jason. It just they had a really good match. Nobody outshined anybody. They both had really good spots, and they were there to put each other over. So I really enjoyed that match. I think it was match of the night for sure.
I feel like definitely match of the night, but I feel like, you know, there's a little bias there. He's another Chicago guy, so that's a big deal. Uh, Illinois representative, so that's huge. I think that Ali really had this opportunity to come down to TNA after the stint that he had in WWE and like kind of grow and develop. And so if they want to put the TNA world title on him versus Trick would be a solid match. I feel like they're really building up to make us start to dislike uh, the NXT stars that come over to TNA.
For sure. The next one that we have on the docket here is Steve Macklin, and I cannot see the other one's name over here. Somebody want to read that one for me?
Nemeths one. Yeah, that was Nancy.
So this one was physical. So this was actually the second match of the night. So this was for the TNA International Championship. Physical. I mean, crazy physical match. It was another one that was really good. So this was the opening bout on the actual card itself. This one surprised me a little bit. I kind of thought that this match was going to be kind of quick. I expected like a 5 to 7 minute work, to be honest with you. We got a good 15 minutes solid out of this one, and it was hard hitting. These boys were not holding back. So I would say by far this was the most physical match of the night.
I definitely saw them having a lot of fun in there. It looked like they were really hurting each other and just enjoying their time in there. So
Yeah, there was a really good spot where they did a superplex out of our corner that we were in, and they it was almost a botch, but it was a really great save, and then the superplex was really really nice. So yeah, I enjoyed the match. It was very brutal. It was back and forth. It could have went either way. It was nice.
All right, this next one was actually a little confusing to me. Now, I will say this: I was really, really, really happy to see that they added the Hardys to the card, because going into the event, the Hardys actually were not on it, and that was kind of the whole reason that we got the tickets. We're old school, like Attitude Era WWE fans, and the Hardys obviously were a huge part of that era. But the expectation was, because TNA came out and said, "Hey, we're going to have two former world champions that are going to be a surprise." So when we saw this match here, it's the Hardys and Leon Slater with a special guest. We're like, okay, it's going to be one of these world champions. Y'all, we got the hometown guy. Is that what his name was? Like the hometown guy?
The hometown hero.
Hometown man. That's what it was. And no.
moreover, I don't understand why we all started to chant hometown man. And the guy just I feel like James, they should have given it to you. They should have just let you get in there. throw a little catcher's catch can in there. Get real technical with him.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice. I know Derek had said that he thinks maybe somebody else who was supposed to be able to that was going to fill in, that was a former champion, couldn't make the trip, or maybe scheduling issues or something like that. But yeah, it was kind of weird. He did get a lot of spots though. I was really really surprised at how many spots that he had got. because yeah, he could wrestle a little bit, but I think the majority of the people were there to see the Hardys. That's the real reason that everybody came, was to see the Hardys. So I was kind of surprised by that. But the Hardys moved very, very well. I was a little worried about Matt because we had seen him, the night before or a couple weeks ago, and he did not look good. Looked very stiff. He was moving slow, but yeah, he moved pretty well. So I was happy about that.
Yeah, I thought Jeff did too. They did a couple of kind of old school Hardy moves where Jeff hit Whisper in the Wind. He also hit Poetry in Motion. They looked good. They looked solid. They looked, I mean, obviously not prime Hardy boys, but they looked way better than what we saw on Impact. And man, this Leon Slater kid, my goodness, is he can fly. He can fly around the ring. He's really, really exciting to watch. And what I'm looking forward to, hopefully what we get is that X Division title going back to being an actual X Division title. Moose is fine. Obviously, Moose is one of those guys that's been a TNA guy for a very long time, but take that belt off of him. Leon would do much better with that title.
I couldn't agree with you more. How about that one high spot he hit over the post? That was crazy.
It's one of the well deserved holy chants that we actually got. He just flew. It was effortless for the man. And did he land on his feet?
Yeah, I think he did.
That was crazy.
Yeah, I believe so. And another thing that I noticed was the ring was very small. It was a 16 by 16 ring, and you could tell because when he went to go fly, he covered three-fourths of the ring. It was pretty amazing. I think that goes to show his athletic ability, but also the fact that the rings were a bit smaller. Um, I maybe think they should upgrade them, make them a little bit bigger if they're not going to do the six-sided anymore.
100% agree. Yeah, if they want to do the six sides, I think that would probably be the best thing, just because it was kind of a niche thing that they had. Although AAA is doing it now, where they have the six-sided ring, but that was always synonymous with TNA. So yeah, I agree. If they're not going to do it, go to the 20 by 20, or even like you had suggested, 18 by 18. All right, next one we got on the card here, our old buddy Santino Marella was fighting against Robert Stone. This one was interesting because it was for kind of the on-screen control of TNA. But what made it a little more interesting is Matt Cardona is the other TNA former champion that actually made the appearance and came back. So he ended up being the special guest ref, and I think Cardona is fine. He's a great athlete, great wrestler, even at his age now. But I think this is just one of those things that they gave us that we weren't really asking for, to be completely and totally honest. I think the match was solid, but having Cardona in there, I don't think really made it any better. Didn't move the needle for me at all.
I did I did like what Cardona had mentioned about, he'd been screwed by both. So he was going to call it right down the middle. There was a little bit of comedy element that he had brought to it. Outside of that, yeah, there was no real. Don't get me wrong. I was definitely happy to see Cardona out there. The fact that we got to see him is super awesome. Glad they threw him in there. But yeah, I thought it was just hilarious, the fact that he just brought it up. He was like, "Yeah, I've been, I've been pushed out of both companies, so I don't have an alliance."
Yeah, I think they could have used the spot better. If you're going to bring back a former champion, put him into some actual action. I just think that was a wasted spot. Like, I think they could have did better with it. As far as the match, it was very comedic. There was a lot of, when dealing with Santino, it's kind of what you expect. He brought the Cobra back, and that got a really nice pop. Everybody was nice to see that. It was the match went how kind of you would think it would be. Another one of the heel versus face kind of classic matches for with something on the line with the authority being on the line. So it was a good match. I enjoyed it.
We'll park here just for a second, just because I want to talk about Tessa Blanchard a little bit. She came out obviously with Robert Stone. I guess the problem that I have with Tessa Blanchard being back is she's being utilized as kind of like a manager. Let's not forget this woman was the TNA Impact World Champion, not the Knockouts champion. We're talking she was the world champion. And one thing that I've noticed, and I've brought this up with you guys, is TNA is kind of over sexualizing their women. They've got some good talent. Again, that opening match that we saw was good. I think their women can actually wrestle. Tessa Blanchard is probably the best of them that can wrestle, but she's not on the card tonight. She's in Robert Stone's corner in kind of a gimmick match. I thought that was rather interesting. And she was also interacting with the crowd quite a bit and comedically. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but we have a former champion, world champion, that is not being utilized. I want to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Was that our second champion that was supposed to show up?
No.
No, because Tessa was that was predetermined. They had mentioned she would be there, right?
Yeah, she
Okay.
was already on the card.
She's got some controversy that, from her history in wrestling. So I've always thought that anytime they bring her around, she's going to bring eyes. So that's always a good thing. But I don't know, does she plan to stick around TNA? Does she plan to jump ship, go to AEW or WWE? Is that just kind of like a holding place for her right now? But I'd like to see her develop, do some work, and build out some stuff there.
I've noticed a lot with WWE. Sometimes the women's matches are a lot better than the men's matches. So if you got a woman that can wrestle, you need to highlight that, and you need to have her out there wrestling and putting on a show. The women's division, as far as the women that are wrestling and the fan base, are growing tremendously. I think you miss out on a lot of opportunity on getting new fans in the seats by not having, your best women wrestlers out there wrestling. Don't put them in jobber spots where, they're just being, manager kind of types. That's okay every now and then, but if you're gonna have a big pay-per-view like that, you have a big name like that, give them some mat time.
100% agree. 100% agree. All right, next one is say his name and he appears. Joe Hendry and Frankie Kazarian in a match that I thought when I was looking at the card, it was probably going to be a very solid match. Not that it wasn't, but kind of as JB's been saying, we had a lot of those matches that were classic heel versus face, and this one probably was the most classic heel versus face. Joe got offense immediately when he started, and then all of a sudden Kaz takes over for essentially the rest of the match, with Joe mounting a couple of comebacks and then obviously a cheap victory for Kaz. I'm not confused as to what they're doing with Joe. I think I know what they're doing with Joe, but it's a PLE. It's a premium event where people are actually paying to see him, and let's be honest, TNA is the lower end when you're talking about WWE and even when we're talking about NXT. I would even say that the NXT shows are watched quite a bit more than what TNA is, and then of course you have AEW. So when your biggest star is out there against a guy like Frankie Kazarian, who again he's no slouch, but he's not a guy, and you have him lose in that fashion, I really feel like this is kind of the turn. This is where we're going to start seeing Joe Hendry being phased out of TNA and starting to make that move towards WWE. And I don't think it's NXT. I think he's going to go to the main roster right away.
Totally agree with you. Joe Hendry he's on fire right now. Like he's super hot. We all know about him dropping that intro and it shot to #1 in UK iTunes or Apple Music Store. So not very many professional wrestlers have been able to even chart. Plenty of them have created music, but not very many of them have been able to chart and chart while being active. So I think that that's a big part of Joe's thing, is like he really creates a new kind of a show, and that's the performance aspect that TNA was really getting out of him. I think they're going to miss that. I think that he could bring that to SmackDown or Raw at any given time and do great over there. So I think, yeah, that's the inevitability, unfortunately, for TNA, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're just, this is his farewell package kind of deal that they're doing. Just gonna, phase him over to WWE because he's so over. He's very unique. He's got his own kind of thing going. So, and he's worldwide, he's very international. People love him. So, I could see him easily going right into the main card and being on the mid card and, having a good push. I don't think he's gonna, be that guy, but I think he'll adapt well over to WWE. I guess sucks for TNA because they're gonna lose somebody that was definitely putting people in the seats. Um, but I think with WWE letting go of a lot of people and there's gonna be opportunities for more guys to come in. Especially with like Mustafa Ali doing well. I was really really impressed by him. So I could see some of the newer batch of guys that were released coming over and helping to fill some of those spots for sure.
I did want to mention with TNA having this opportunity like this, I really feel like they could be competitive against AEW. If they were to pick up a lot of the talent, if Strowman was to go over there, if some people who have a little more of a name and notoriety, they could build out some storylines with them, I think they would really, because I think structurally, I do like a little bit more of what TNA offers. I feel like AEW, I get lost easy with the number of belts, with the number of different. Sometimes we don't get into certain storylines. Sometimes certain belts disappear. I didn't want to jump from brand to brand real quick, but I did want to touch on that.
No, let's park there for a second, just because that's a really good call out. I think what TNA is doing right now is they're attempting to be this small kind of family friendly type brand. But from what we saw last night, there was some chants and some obscenities that were said last night that keeps them from being kind of that wholesome kind of family friendly. And with the kind of backing that they're getting from WWE, and when WWE releases people, I mean, we got a lot of truth chants last night. When WWE releases someone, who's to say, hey, just go over there? It's a different payroll. Send them to the other brand. It's not affiliated. I really think that, yes. So these cuts, Strowman, Truth. Who else? We've got a few names that have been cut. If they go over there, and you're kind of switching them out because Hendry maybe he's leaving the card and going to WWE, that could make for compelling television. And then you still have the ability to cross over like one way or the other, which again then brings that WWE audience into TNA, and it's not taking away from WWE. It's easy to watch both. Versus, I feel like with AEW, you're kind of choosing between WWE or AEW. Of course, there's people that watch both, but just like in those WCW days, there was one show that you'll watch a little bit more than the other. There's not a ton of people that are watching AEW and WWE consistently. So I think absolutely this could work to where you could see them grow the TNA brand and use it as more of like kind of a, I don't want to say a developmental brand because they already have that in NXT, but you can use it for more like veterans that are kind of aging out almost of WWE, and you can send them over to TNA to continue their runs.
I also wanted to touch on that just really fast. How do you all feel about the accessibility to finding TNA? Is it easy to access? Is it easy for the consumer, as we are, to get to it? And is it easy to digest?
No, it's not. There's a real simple answer. No. So they have TNA Plus. It's a yearly subscription or a monthly subscription, but I'll be completely honest with you, nobody's paying $10 a month to watch TNA wrestling. It's just not going to happen until you get bigger names, more notoriety. They're also making it very difficult to catch full shows on YouTube, and it's strategic, right? Because they want you to sign up. They want you to have their subscription. And what they are going to start doing, I just saw this recently, they are going to start airing Impact on Fridays, the full show on YouTube. And previously they were not doing that. You had to just go through, the TNA Plus app. But here's the problem with that. Raw is live. SmackDown usually is recorded live. TNA is not. They're always usually a week, sometimes even 2 weeks behind. So we already know what's going to happen. So why would I pay for a service when I've already got the results? So I think that's something that they're going to have to do a better job of. And this is the first step in that. But they're going to have to do a better job of making it accessible. All right. So the next match on the card was probably the most disappointing. And not disappointing in the fact that the match was bad, because the match wasn't bad. The match was actually okay. But I think what the expectation was when we were going to see the Knockouts world champion, Slamovich, is that we were going to see like their best female technical wrestler. And she was vastly, in my opinion, outperformed by Li Ying Li. I think she was vastly outperformed by her. And the issue with that is, this is your champion that is being outperformed by someone who really wasn't on the radar to be the challenger. As a matter of fact, it was Tessa Blanchard, who we were talking about a little earlier, who was supposed to be in this spot, and I believe she was in this spot about a month or so ago. But B, your thoughts on the match itself, and specifically the performance of Slamovich.
I don't want to be harsh, but it was a little underwhelming. I don't know if they were tired, jet lag, or anything like that, but man, definitely showed up and put on a great performance for the expectation. For the women's knockout title, we just had Jordynne Grace in comparison, so I can't. It's hard, that was a big spot to fill. To me, Jordynne Grace was possibly one of the most impressive up-and-coming females in wrestling, period, in all of the women's divisions across all three organizations. So after they didn't do too much with her after the Women's Rumble, I was a little disappointed, but I just really, I don't know. I put so many chips on most women's divisions. We've had the conversation that's where wrestling is still happening. So I think that's possibly why I was, I felt like I felt about Slamovich, because I just didn't see that level of, I'm ready to take it there to the total next level. So.
Agreed. Man, there's not really much else I can say about it. I don't want to be overly critical either. And again, I thought the match was okay. It's not that I thought the match was bad, but he just outperformed Slamovich. So moving on, though, to, I know a match that Brandon was really excited for because of Mr. Nick Nemeth. The Nemeths went up against the Rascals, and actually this was a match that I was kind of excited for too. TNA World Tag Team titles on the line in this one. I was excited for this one too because of what we saw out of the Rascals on Impact. They are high flyers. These guys can move. Kind of reminds me of Leon. Yeah, with Leon, they remind me of him. They move around just as well, just as quick. However, we got a match that was more comedic relief, I think. Still an okay match. There was not that I want to really bring that up. There was not a bad match last night. There was not a match that was just completely botched last night. However, I just thought that we were going to get a match that was going to mimic more of what we saw on Impact, because that number one contenders match for the tag titles was really, really good. But instead what we got is we got a match that had a lot of comedic relief, a more traditional style match where they kind of cut the ring in half, and the Rascals did not have a lot of tagging outs. I mean, the Nemeths were the ones that were tagging in and out a lot. Funniest part of the night, though, it was the Rascals were really hazing the Nemeths and getting the fans to chant. So it was, is it Ryan Nemeth was saying, "That's my brother," and then then one of the Rascals had yelled out and said, "You're adopted," and the crowd really got into that and really responded, and it seemed to kind of get underneath the Nemeth skin. But what was y'all's thoughts on the championship match?
For me, Nick and Ryan are my favorite tag team right now. I feel like they embody those late 90s tag teams that were very antagonistic, very, I'm gonna bother you, but I'm also gonna put on a clinic. So I'm gonna give you great wrestling, but at the same time.
I mean, with Dolph Ziggler, it's obviously, I think it's Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels all over again. I think it's version 2.0 is kind of what they're trying to do. So, yeah, I definitely see a big Rockers inspiration in there. So it was a good match. But yeah, I definitely think there was a lot more comedic relief than there was back and forth action. It was very, cut off. It was definitely one-sided. I thought maybe the titles could change hands in that match based on the number one contenders match that we had, but I think once the match kind of started, it was clear that wasn't going to happen. So there was a couple of good spots. There was a good spot where he did a twist over the ring, the turnbuckle, and took out everybody. It was nice. There were some good spots, but I think they could have did more with it for sure.
Yeah, I think it was okay, but I would definitely say I really just had the expectations that the Rascals wouldn't be so grounded, and they just did not allow them to fly around as much as I would have liked, just to showcase their ability. That's really more so all I wanted to see. Not surprised that the Nemeths are still tag team champions. They've only been champions now for a couple of months, so I think that they'll have a nice long reign. But we'll see kind of what happens there. That does take us, though, to the main event of the evening, which was Trick Williams versus Elijah. I have a lot of thoughts on this match. First off, match was solid. I thought the match was solid. Elijah did really well. It was your typical main event, slower paced, not a lot of high impact moves. We saw a couple, but again, not very slow paced. You could tell they wanted to have a main event spot. But a lot of thoughts are kind of outside of this match. And that was, we got some weird chants during the main event last night. We want truth, which, okay, that one's fine. But then we started getting some Cena chants. We even got some Hurt Syndicate chants. And you could tell it was really getting under the skin of Elijah specifically. And I think that's one of those things that, he just kind of takes pride in the product and what they're doing. And unfortunately, there was some people there, and a big part of the crowd that was just trying to take the attention away from the main event, which sucks because, again, I thought the main event match itself was pretty solid.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I feel like Elijah probably should get a TNA World Title soon. Now, I like Trick. I am a huge Trick Williams fan. But okay. What I don't like is whether or not this is going to become a brand war. I don't want that to become this. That's not what I'm looking for. Trick's going to come over here and be TNA World Champion. I don't want him to be like a committed TNA World Champion. I don't want to be still hanging around to, hey, let's go over here at NXT and come back to NXT. I want him to just solely focus on defending that title and then coming up to the main roster. Like, I want to see him versus Mel as a good mid card WrestleMania Day 1 match in like a year and a half from now. So that is like super important that I think that they finish that. And but outside of that, I just felt like that's what a lot of the crowd was feeling. It was, are we going to accept Trick as our world champion or not?
Yeah, I liked the match. The match was good. I thought it was a good main event match. Trick played with the crowd a lot. He had a lot of crowd interaction, which I thought was good because, the people show up to see WWE guys and, they want to see them wrestle, but they also want the entertainment aspect of interacting with the crowd. There was a lot of Trick and A chants. He even got in on the Trick and A chants towards the end of the match. The other chants, the Cena chants was really weird. I don't understand that at all. It's if you want to come over and show love for WWE, that's fine. But John Cena had nothing to do with anything that was going on, so I really didn't understand that at all. Elijah looked really good, especially physically. He was monstrous looking, like a Macho Man Randy Savage, kind of jacked. He was jacked, and uh, it was a good match. Not a There wasn't a whole lot of big spots, but the match flowed well. Um, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm kind of interested to see what happens tonight on TNA because Trick said he was going to hang around, so he opened up. He was welcoming challenges, so it's going to be fun to see what they do with that. I definitely think Trick should definitely stay with WWE and come up to the main roster. I don't see the transfer with him going over to there. I think he's too over with WWE fans. I think if WWE lost him, it would hurt, especially with like NXT, with guys coming up from NXT trying to be on the main roster and wondering if they're going to get that shot, especially with guys like Mustafa Ali, doing so well, and then WWE just getting rid of them. So.
And that does take us to the end of the card. I think that it was overall a really, really good card. Good event. I'm interested to see what happens tonight. I'm interested to see what the kind of the fallout, the aftermath is, and yes, who's going to step up as Trick's next challenger? Because at some point, right, they've got to take that belt off of him. I don't think it makes sense to give it back to Joe. I don't think it actually at this point makes much sense to give it to either one of the two challengers that he just faced. So Santana or Elijah. So who's kind of that next guy that can step up and take on the champion? And the usual kind of suspects you would think would be like a guy like Moose, but he's also a heel. And he's also had some beef with NXT, so maybe, but at that point, you probably would want to take the X Division Championship off of him. But does he lose credibility if you do that? That the only other guy that I can kind of think of, I know that Jeff Hardy had talked about wanting one more world title run. So is that maybe why they took the tag team titles off the Hardys, to see if they could build Jeff up and give him one more world title run before he retires? I don't know, but it's got to happen, I would think, sometime soon. I think the only other time that we've seen this is when Kenny Omega had came over and became TNA World Champion. I think he had two or three successful title defenses. Well, here we are with Trick. He's had 2 successful title defenses. It's about that time now that you take it off of him and it goes back to a TNA guy. Any thoughts on who you think that might be?
I want my boy Frankie to get it. Frankie Kazarian, I feel like, could agitate people. I love a good heel. And he knows how to be a jerk. And he knows how to sell it in the ring and let JB take over.
Based off of last night, I think Mustafa Ali's a guy that you could put the belt on. I think he could go with it. I was impressed by his mic work. He's definitely been putting in some work with the mic, and he could always wrestle. So he always had that aspect. I think WWE just kind of he got lost in the shuffle. There's just so much talent that they didn't really give him a chance to talk much on the mic and kind of develop that personality. But that's definitely somebody that I think that, they could put the title on, at least for now, until they figure out, what they want to do as far as, if they're going to sign more guys that are coming over and whatnot. And then they kind of play around with that. But I think that's somebody that could come up and challenge for the title right now.
For sure. But for right now, we're going to sign off, and we appreciate y'all clicking on the video and appreciate y'all listening to us talk some wrestling today. Take care. Hey, wife is going to kill me if I don't call her back. She's going to call twice.